I want to touch on the Errol Spence versus Crawford fight first. Leading into that fight, who did you have? Who did you choose? Who was going to be the winner? Who did you think was going to win?
I had Terrence Crawford, man. I've been knowing that he was gonna win that fight for almost half a almost half a decade. You know what I'm saying? I
Okay.
had that belief. I always was going with Crawford.
And how did you think it was going to play out before it happened?
Um, when the fight, we all know this fight has been talked about for 5 years, right? When it first was talked about, I wasn't really into those two guys. I wasn't really paying too much attention to them. I was actually watching Spence fights more than Crawford fights
Okay.
around. Was it around 2018 for sure? You know what I'm saying? When I bought his pay per view when he fought Porter. I bought his pay per view after the car accident when he fought Garcia. You know, so I was watching a lot more Spence fights than I was Crawford. But like when the whole thing was even brought up in the beginning, I wasn't really, you know. But as we got into the 2020s, that's when I started to pay attention. I was like, okay, Errol Spence, he looked a certain way in the Garcia fight. You know, he didn't look quite the same, but still really good. I thought he beat Danny Garcia, swept him. I thought he 12-0'd him to me. That's the fight I watch. I don't know anybody else saying. And then I was like, that performance, okay, he's coming off. He looked real good still to me. Then I was watching a lot more Crawford fights. I believe in 2020, did Crawford fight in 2020? No, right?
I don't know.
I don't think he fought in 2020, but I did see him fight Mean Machine. I was like, okay, I was just really just examining them both. Then I seen Errol Spence fight Ugas, and I seen that performance and how people was praising him for that performance. And there was a lot in that fight that was very telling that he was not going to beat Terrence Crawford. And
Right.
from that point on, I knew that Terrence Crawford was most certainly going to beat him because in that particular fight with Ugas, a lot of people that paying attention to the brutalization that Errol Spence is putting on Ugas, but I'm watching to see why do people think this man could beat Terrence Crawford, right? Seen a lot of mistakes he made. And you as a boxer, you know, when you put yourself out there, you know what I'm saying, keep yourself vulnerable, you know what I'm saying, and you overextending or you're telegraphing, it's easier for a boxer of that talent level to see those things, expose you on that. Ugas, really good, not Terrence Crawford though. Danny Garcia, really good, not Terrence Crawford though. Those guys are not able to get out of the way of shots like Terrence Crawford. He has educated feet. So in that Ugas fight, he was doing a lot of lunging in with the left hand. His footwork was not that good. His foot placement was not that good. You know, he looked a lot more slower to me. You know, he
Right.
just didn't. It was a lot of things that I seen that he was not going to beat Terrence Crawford with. Then we get into this fight, right? Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, then we get into the fight. You know, and Errol Spence, people making excuses. Oh, he didn't look like this. He didn't look like that. I thought he did really good work in the first 2 rounds. You know what I'm saying? Until he got caught at the end of round 2. But I thought he looked pretty good. Nobody was saying, oh, he maybe before the fight they were saying something about his eyes or whatever the case may be. But in the first 2 rounds, hey, I had people over here watching. They're like, oh, Errol Spence getting him first 2 rounds.
But you know, I think Crawford in the first 2 rounds looked like he was just downloading information. You know what I mean? He was just seeing what he's working with. He even said it. He was like, he felt a couple shots, and he was like, "Oh, that's it." Like he was just, you know what I mean? Like to your point about guys who make a lot of mistakes and lunge forward. A lot of times, though, a certain fighter will make quote unquote mistakes because they're not worried about what's coming back at them, or you know what I'm saying? Um, Not always, but it happens, you know. So that's why I don't always judge all of the past fights because some guys, like I've done it myself, were like, I'll drop my hands. I'm not really worried if I get hit with this or whatever. So that's why to me it was like it was 50-50. I was leaning towards Bud, but it was like a lean, like a little lean. I didn't think he would do what he did, but I thought he would win. Um, the weigh-in to me showed a lot because everybody kept saying Spence is bigger, Spence is bigger, Spence is bigger, right? And when you have a bigger, lumbering, kind of aggressive fighter, if he's also a bigger person, that's probably going to be to his advantage. But when I saw the weigh-in, I mean, he didn't look bigger to me. If anything, Bud looked a little more solid.
Yeah, and I definitely get your point about the lunging in, but I did see Errol Spence not only doing it in that fight, but in the fight prior. I don't know. It's always been a habit for him, you know, because he hasn't really been like this elusive fighter moving his head and nothing like that. He's right there, you know what I'm saying? So when he does lunge in, he's not really getting out the way. He may duck under, but I see him doing the Danny fight too, do a lot of the lunging in, you know. It's just a lot of flaws that he has that it's just all wrong for a style like Terrence Crawford. You know?
Right. Right. No,
Legit.
exactly. But he was getting away with them because he was winning Spence. So that's why I
Right.
was like, well, maybe he'll
Fix
switch
it.
up his attack and he'll
Right.
make adjustments when he's,
Right.
but he didn't.
Yeah, and it's all about also in one of my videos that I think I dropped yesterday. I was saying how you can't be predictable against Terrence Crawford. I made an example of Leo Santa Cruz. Leo Santa Cruz, what did he do before he got knocked out? He was against the ropes and threw 3 straight right hands. Like,
Yeah.
this is elementary. Like, you're a boxer, Marco. If you see the same shot coming at the same speed, it's the same punch. You're gonna get out the way and try to land your shot.
I'll tell you, it is astounding to me, even throughout my own sparring and fights, how many people do the same patterns over and over and don't adjust. The majority of people, would you agree? Majority of people don't really adjust. They do the same thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I said that, and I brought up great points in my breakdown to for Errol Spence, the things that he could do to help him win the fight. If he is not predictable, if he jumps on, not jump on him because he was gonna get caught, but just don't give him a second to breathe and think. Don't be in the middle of the ring with him. That's one thing that he was doing a lot in the fight.
Mhm.
Don't keep the fight in the center ring. You're not gonna win that battle. Errol Spence, people say, oh, Errol Spence has many ways he can beat you. Errol Spence, I'm not gonna say he didn't beat guys in a different style before. We've seen him do it with Mikey Garcia, Danny Garcia, but those guys are limited in terms of foot movement. They're not fast. They're not really athletic like that. Their foot speed is really not there. Those are guys who I don't want to say stood right there, but they technically stood right there. You know what I'm saying? That's why Errol Spence, the more athletic fighter than those two guys, is able to outbox them.
Right. So did you think that Bud was going to be as dominant as he was?
Absolutely not. And I was very disappointed in that fight. Absolutely not. I'm a Bud Crawford fan. I was rooting for him to win. I wanted him to win. But I did not think that it was going to be that easy. And Bud Crawford admitted himself that he didn't think it was going to be that easy.
I mean, not many people did think it was going to be that easy. You know, I can't. Can you think of the last mega fight that was this one-sided? Like this one-sided?
I mean, if you're talking mega fights, I mean, they called Ryan Garcia and Tank a mega fight. So, I mean, that one.
It was, but for boxing purists, we knew that Garcia didn't really have a shot, right?
I mean, of course, like a lot of people with common sense, like me and you, do that. But it was a lot of people, even that's in boxing circles, who thought this man had a chance, whatever. But you
Okay.
know,
I mean, I guess, but even that fight wasn't that one side. I mean, it was quicker, but this was just
yeah, this was way more one sided.
I mean, it got to the point where I don't know about you, but I was and I don't usually feel this way, but I was feeling slightly like bad for
Yeah,
Errol.
I
He didn't
was
look
feeling
good.
very bad.
Yeah, he didn't look good.
After all the shit he talked and all of that and all of this, I still felt really bad for the dudes, man. I was like, damn, because he kept getting up.
You mentioned before his eyes, something like he looked, and I had seen that too. What do you mean? Like, what did you see in his eyes before the fight?
I'm more so bringing up what people brought to my attention because when I was
Okay.
looking at him, Errol was not this like wide-eyed guy, or he's not really colorful like that. He doesn't have a colorful expression on his
Right.
face all the time. So I'm just thinking, hey, that's how he normally look to me. Yeah, his eyes was a little like lower than usual, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But I didn't think anything was out of the norm or nothing like that. I just like,
Right.
okay, he's ready. He didn't look scared and none of that shit. He just looked like
Uh,
he was ready to get in there.
yeah. I
Whatever the
mean,
case may be.
I've heard a bunch of things, and to me, it doesn't really matter because no matter what happened, he took the fight, he fought. So whatever if there was an issue, it was on him anyway, and if there wasn't, it was on him anyway. So it's on
Right.
him anyway. You know what I mean? Do you want to see them rematch? Do you think they should rematch?
Um, the Bud Crawford fan of me wants to see them rematch because of all the excuses that we see are now being laid out by certain people in the YTBC about the
What's
weight and
YTBC?
a YouTube boxing community.
What is that?
It's like whoever's on YouTube. It's basically whoever's on YouTube and their channel is about boxing. Basically,
Oh,
yeah,
that's a thing.
yeah,
So
that's
that's
the thing. Yeah,
that's me and you. Okay,
right.
got it.
Basically,
So I know there's like an LDBC. I didn't know if that was some other version of that. I don't
yeah.
know.
The LDBC is in the YTBC. They're just their own,
Yeah, I know who they
entity.
are. Right. I didn't
Yeah.
know. Okay, I got you. So
Um, But yeah, oh man, I forgot we was even talking about shit.
You were talking about the rematch.
Oh yeah, the rematch. Yeah, I think I want to see the rematch because I just want everything to be debunked about the weight and Errol Spence didn't look good because of the weight and it was the weight cut. He just was off in this fight. He had a bad night. He's still better than Terence Crawford. I just want all that to be debunked. I think if they do fight again, Terence Crawford has a lot of confidence. Not only did he prepare himself really well for this fight with Errol Spence, now he knows Errol Spence's tendencies.
Oh, the thing with that is like he had a bad night. Yeah, if the fight was somewhat close, I'd be like, okay, but it was such a lopsided victory. Like you don't have such a lopsided change bad night. It just you know what I'm saying. Like I don't think that I don't think that that's a possibility that it happened the way it happened just because he was having a bad night.
Right,
It had to have been a lot of what Bud did. It can't,
right,
you know what I mean? Maybe he did have a bad night, maybe, but still, it wouldn't have mattered if Bud wasn't so amazing to begin with.
right. I
So,
just think people saying that he wasn't himself and all of that. I just think a lot of people it's the fan in them, because in my opinion, because we're not in there, I don't know how Errol Spence is feeling. I can't speak on it. I'm just
right,
saying, in my opinion, Errol Spence has never been dropped.
right,
Errol's and in a fight, he's
right.
never been dropped in a fight. He was dropped in the second round at that. Um, and after that first knockdown, he was hurt. I had to go back and see that he was hurt because at first I thought, when your footing is bad and somebody hits you and you fall, that's considered a knockdown either way. I thought it was one of those, but no, he was hurt.
Well, I think
So
he got hurt more right at the end when the bell rang. When he was
right,
against he got hurt then from the follow-up shots. The first shot, I think, was a bit of a splash knockdown, a bit, but then he had him in trouble when that bell rang.
right. And what people forget is, I really think that first knockdown hurt him because Terence Crawford is more. He's made himself. I don't know. He's trained his mind to really be more comfortable in a southpaw position. He's a natural right-hander, but he's so fluid in the southpaw. But people forget that his power hand is still his right hand. So when Errol Spence was leaning like this in this awkward position after he leaned in with the jab, he was all loose right here. He got hit with Terence Crawford's strong hand, and I think he was really affected by that. Then going into the third round, he started doing what people said Terence Crawford would do, and that's throw caution to the wind and you fight with his heart. He started chasing Terence Crawford and getting angry and fighting angry, and Terence Crawford will use that against you, and he did. So yeah.
He looked to me like maybe angry, but more so like in shock. Like, why is this not working? Usually, I chase him, I chop him down, and it works. But why? He almost didn't know. It was almost like his bag of tricks was there was nothing in the bag. It was just that one way to go, and he didn't really. You know, the only thing I heard Derek James saying in the corner, I think he said step around him, and he said keep chopping. That's all I heard him say. I mean, am I missing something that Derek was telling him to do?
I mean, I don't know what anybody else even wanted Derek James, and that's another thing. I don't know what, and I'm gonna get to that, but yeah, I don't know, like Errol Spence, none of the stuff that he was doing was working. Like I said, Terence Crawford was well prepared.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying like Errol Spence is an easy fighter or anybody could have did that to him, but Terence Crawford is. I just always thought he was levels above.
Yeah.
People was undermining his adjustments. And the adjustments that he made in this fight was easier than any adjustments I've seen in his prior fights, and
Right. Right.
that's saying something. Unfortunately, you
Well,
know.
do you think there's going to be any difference if they rematch at 54?
I think not really in terms of the outcome. Not really. Maybe Errol will look stronger to some people, whatever the case may be. But in terms of the overall performance, I don't think it'll be any better because he still makes those vital mistakes. Um, he has a lot of bad habits that he's not going to correct in one camp. We see he didn't correct them when Derek James said that they were working on this, working on that. He didn't correct it in this camp. So why would it take one camp after that to correct it? I just don't see it.
Right.
I think if he does fight Terence Crawford again, it could be a lot worse.
Right.
Could be a whole lot worse.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I kind of don't want to see the rematch either. I mean, I heard some of the excuses on why he might have lost, and if any of those have some truth to them, it might make it a little more competitive. But I don't think there'll be a difference in the result. it should be another dominating victory for Bud, no matter what. So, you know, but then the question is, well, then who does Bud fight? Because if he doesn't fight, and Errol, by the way, from what I understand, there's a time period of when he can trigger that rematch clause,
Yeah.
and I think that's almost ending. I think he has to trigger it sooner. It's not going to happen. So if he doesn't happen, for whatever reason, you got Canelo and Charlo, but they're tied up and they got a rematch clause, I think, at least. So who does Bud fight if he can't fight any of those three guys?
I forgot about that because I was looking at the Charlo Canelo winner, but whoever loses, they both have rematch clause, right?
I don't think both, from what I was told. I don't know for sure, but from what I was told, just Canelo. If
Or
he
just Canelo?
loses, and I don't think he's going to lose, but you know, and Bud made it clear that now, I mean, he went literally overnight from being like, I'm not going
Not
past
gonna fight him till he's gonna fight him.
now. Yeah, now I'm going to do 68. Um,
Uh, so
so
who does he fight? I don't know. A lot of people want to see him fight Boots, but said he want to stay at 147 for that. I guess he's trying to get the most money. It's because he did say he'll stay at 147 for Tank. So why not fight Boots? Fight Boots. If he does want to campaign at 54, he said the weight cut was hard for him at 47. Go to 54.
he doesn't want to fight Boots though. He made that real
Yeah,
clear.
he made that real clear. Yeah.
So who's left? What? Tim Tszyu? If he,
I heard something about Keith Thurman. I don't know how true it is that they say he would, because Keith Thurman been talking. He has the gift of gab. But you
but
know,
I don't think Keith Thurman's a big, because Crawford said very clearly, like, I want big money, legacy kind of defining fights, and Keith
right.
Thurman isn't that, not now at least.
So we all kind of hold the Terrence Crawford by his standard of what he's set for himself.
It's
So
standard, right?
right. So I really don't know because a Tim Tszyu fight, no, that's not fitting the criteria of what you said.
It's not. I mean,
Who
but
said this? No.
it would be a belt at 54 because I think as soon as Charlo fights, they're stripping him of
Yeah,
the
they're
WBO.
stripping Tim Tszyu. Absolutely.
Right. So Tim Tszyu would be a fight for a belt, so he might do that to try and get a belt at another weight class.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a tough situation for Bud. I mean, I really don't know. But if Canelo is victorious, and if he is victorious, then that fight could happen. But I really think Jamel he's a live dog in that fight. I'm rooting for him, but and I did initially say I will pick him to win, but I was being biased, because I looked a little bit. I was just doing a little bit of watching his fights briefly, and
Charlo, you were picking Charlo?
yeah,
Nah,
he's not gonna beat Canelo. I'll be surprised, man.
that's I respect you for admitting you were being biased. Yeah, a lot of people. I mean, I don't really care who wins with that one, but I can't go against Canelo because all the advantages he has, from experience to size to, you know, every advantage almost. Um,
I was really just in that fight. I was really just um where I was really being biased is I was talking about how Canelo didn't look good in his last three performances while ignoring that Jamel's been on the layoff. He hasn't been looking really spectacular against the guys in his division. Yeah, he was undisputed, but he had a couple bumps along the road where he was the overwhelming favorite against some of those dudes that either he lost to or had a draw against.
right.
So
I mean, my
I
thing is like, how big is Charlo really? Because we're in a place in boxing now where a lot of these guys I mean, I heard, and I know some people close to Charlo, that he walks around like 185, 190. So he's dropping 30 or 40 pounds every time he fights at 54. Like, that's fucking
that's
insane.
insane. Yeah,
Like, I mean, how much? What do you walk around at?
I walk around probably 149, one at most 149 to like 153.
So you drop. What'd you say you fight at 39?
139. Yeah.
So you drop. I mean, that's a good amount of weight for you too. 12 pounds. I mean, does that give you a problem?
No, that doesn't give me a problem.
See, I never cut weight. I probably should have, because people don't realize in boxing, everybody has to cut weight, because if I don't cut weight, I walk around at. I fought at 165 as an amateur, 168 pro. I walked around at that. So I'm going in fighting at 168. That means I'm getting in the ring with guys who walk around at 185 probably. So I'm at a disadvantage. But I didn't care because felt like I'm thin to begin with. And if I lost any more weight, I would just feel too weak.
Right.
But it's a trade off. Like, feel a little weak, losing the weight, and then rehydrate and feel strong the night of the fight, I guess. But I don't know.
Right.
I guess my point is, maybe Charlo's bigger than we think.
That is true. But Canelo's body has matured at 168. Although Charlo is the bigger man, it's all about how your body adjusts to a weight. He hasn't been at that weight class. He doesn't know how it feels there yet. He is the bigger guy, height wise or whatever. But in terms of Canelo's a real short, stocky, thick dude. He's matured at that weight. He's been all the way to 175 and fought big guys. You know what I'm saying? And then he's moved back down to 168. In his last fight, he looked huge, bro.
Yeah.
So I really don't know, but I just think that fight right there, Canelo, like Jermell, although he's able to box, he's not. He's kind of sloppy. He's kind of
A little
sloppy.
wild, right? A little
A little
wild.
sporadic, a little wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So I think stuff like that, Canelo's real tight. You know what I'm saying. He's real
Uh-huh.
tight. He's strong. His guard is strong. I seen Castaño
Conservative.
able to put pressure on him with that same kind of guard. A little bit more faster than Canelo. Throws a lot more punches, but Canelo's he's real short and compact. Like
Canelo's real conservative, and
right,
that's something that me as a fighter myself, not until my late 20s did I realize how to be more conservative with my energy, with my emotion even. Sometimes you get kind of jacked up, like
yeah,
you're able to kind of, because that makes you tired when you're
right,
like have that anxious excitement in the ring. That makes you tired as shit.
right. And
People don't realize.
and the question is, will he be able to hurt Canelo? We know Canelo's been hurt by bigger guys, whatever. Look, I'll just say this, right? And I'm just now saying this. I'm just now coming to the realization that, look, just because this bigger guy, he didn't hurt Canelo, Canelo took his power, don't mean Charlo can't hurt him, bro. I've seen
Yeah.
people saying, Mean Machine dropped Crawford, Gamboa hurt him. Errol Spence, who was supposed to be the biggest puncher Terrence Crawford fought, he didn't hurt him. So it's like, we just gotta see it. We gotta see it. But I will say Canelo can hurt him as well. Canelo can hurt him. I seen Castano hurt him. Like I kind of just contradicted myself, but he's moving up in weight. I would think Canelo can hurt him. Canelo's a big puncher. He's putting down big dudes at his weight class. And like I just said, I just think Jermell's sloppy. Like, if he's gonna be boxing all night trying to get away from Canelo, he was boxing all night trying to get away from Castano till he
Yep.
landed a shot and got him.
Yep. Yep. You're right.
So will that fatigue him? We got to take this into consideration as well. This is a huge fight. This is a big moment. The fatigue is gonna start to hit him a little bit more different.
Any fighter who is going forward is always less fatigued than a fighter who is backing away. It's just always it's a mental drain. It's also a physical drain. It's just how it is.